Welcome to the Sarah Finkelstein Show. Today is January 24, 2022. And I have a question for you, a burning question. Why haven't you yet protected yourself from the devastating costs of long-term care? Have you had this conversation with anyone? Have you talked about this with your friends by the pool or the tennis courts? We talk to our friends, we share ideas, we ask for recommendations and suggestions. And long term care really should be a hot topic. First of all, let me explain what long term care is so that we are on the same page. Long-term care is that extended type of healthcare that we most likely will need in our older years when we're no longer able to take 100% care of ourselves. So we need a little bit of assistance. Long-term care can take place in your home, and most people want it that way. Most people want to stay at home in their familiar surroundings where they are comfortable. Some people do end up moving into an assisted living community, which is like having your own apartment, but you don't have to care for it. In other words, you don't have to cook, you don't have to shop, you don't have to clean the apartment. That's the benefit of being in an assisted living community. Another place where long-term care can take place and does take place is inside a nursing home. So those are the different places where long-term care occurs. And the probability of needing long-term care is huge. I've probably shared this before, but it is 70% of people over the age of 65 will need long-term care at some point. There are about 78 million baby boomers. Baby boomers are those people that are born between 1946 and 1964. So if we just talk about just the baby boomer population, that's 78 million, and 70% of them will need long-term care. That's a whopping number of over 54 million people. Just the baby boomers, not even talking about the individuals that are older than the baby boomers. So why haven't you yet protected yourself from this tremendous probability of needing long-term care? There are several reasons that I am guessing, and I've had conversations with families about long-term care. So there's many reasons, but some of them are, well, gee, I'm healthy. I don't expect anything to happen to me. I expect to continue to be healthy and independent. I don't need any help. And that's great. And hopefully that will be the case for you. Another excuse that I might hear from people is, well, my son, my daughter, my in-laws will come and take care of me if that should happen to me. Really? Is that really doable? Is your son or daughter going to be able to quit their job and come and take care of you indefinitely? We know that the average long-term care claim is about 3 years for males and a little more than 4 years for females. So think about it. Is your son or daughter going to be able to take off from work for that length of period? Maybe it's your daughter-in-law. Maybe it's your son-in-law. Are they going to be able to do that? Probably not. Another reason that people don't protect themselves from the devastating costs of long-term care is because they overestimate what it costs to buy the long-term care insurance. They overestimate it. I've heard people say, oh, I can't afford the insurance. It's going to cost me $2,000 a month. No, $2,000 a month is what it might cost you if you don't have a plan in place. And if you don't have a plan in place, it could cost you $3,000 or $4,000 or even $5,000 a month. And in some cases, I've seen numbers even higher than that. So that's an issue where people are overestimating what it would cost to protect themselves. It's not as high as people think. Another reason why people might think that they don't need it is because, I'm not going to live that long. They don't think that they're going to live into their 90s or 100. And you know what? You don't have to be in your 90s or 100 to need some long-term care. Statistically, about 40% of people that are receiving long-term care benefits are under the age of 65. Bet you didn't know that. For those of us that are very healthy, and knock on wood for that, that's excellent. And I hope that that will be the case for you going forward. But I'd like to share a story with you about Grandpa. Grandpa was very healthy and very athletic his whole life. He used to run, he used to swim, he used to play tennis. And as I said, he was healthy for his whole life until he reached his 80s. And that's when things started to go down. I would say he was in his maybe mid 80s when this happened to him. He and Grandma were living in a 55 plus community, and every day Grandpa would take his daily walk to the mailbox to pick up the day's mail. That's what he did. On this particular day, Grandma realized that he had been gone for 15 minutes, and it was only a 3-minute walk to the mailbox. All of a sudden, she realized, hey, where is Dave? He didn't come back from the mailbox. And she took a walk there, and she found him laying on the ground. He couldn't get up. And it was later found out that he had a very mild case of Parkinson's. And that started a whole new era for Grandma and Grandpa, that they needed to turn on their long-term care insurance policy. Now, if it had been totally up to Grandpa, he would have never, ever, ever purchased this policy. But it was due to the urging of his daughter, who was a certified financial planner. She made sure that her parents had this coverage because she had the inkling that most likely one day would come that they would need to use long-term care. And where they were living in assisted living, it was about $6,000 a month. Think about that. $72,000 a year. They were not the kind of people that had that kind of money laying around. So for them, it was really important to have a plan in place. So again, Grandpa always thought that he would always be as healthy as he had been for the bulk of his life. The point is, none of us know what tomorrow brings. But wouldn't we be better off if we had a plan in place if we needed it. That's what the insurance is all about. Or would you rather deal with a crisis? Would you rather deal with having to spend down your retirement nest egg to pay for long-term care? Or maybe that inheritance that you want your kids or grandkids to get, will that get spent to pay for long-term care? And remember, it's not going to get any cheaper than it is today. So how does one qualify for long-term care protection? Well, the way to qualify is really with your good health. If you have certain diagnoses that might prevent you from getting a long-term care policy. The traditional long-term care insurance has been around for many decades. And it's called traditional because it works like car insurance. You pay your monthly premiums. If you ever get into an accident, God forbid, the policy will pay. But if you never need it, you don't spend. If you don't use it, you lose it, is what I was trying to say. So it works like car insurance. If you don't use it, you lose it. And some people rightfully feel, well, gee, why should I pay for something that I might never need to use? And that's a valid point. And the insurance companies are aware that the public has these thoughts. That is why they've come up with some alternative types of long-term care protection plans. They could be a life insurance policy, but specifically designed to maximize long-term care, or it could be an annuity that's specifically designed to maximize dollars for long-term care. For example, some people have a certain bucket of money that's sitting in a bank, like in a bank CD, that they have earmarked for long-term care purposes. But if they were to take that money and leverage it, they could get more dollars than what they have sitting in the bank allocate for the long-term care. So if you have questions, you'd like a quote, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help. And please, I always say that long-term care is a family affair. Talk to your children about it. It's a family affair. So to summarize, 70% of people will need long-term care at some point, some for a short period of time and others for many, many years. There are many reasons why people put their head in the sand about long-term care, like it's never going to happen to me. And I have to tell you that if you've never had a relative, a parent, an aunt, an uncle who needed long-term care, the thought probably hasn't crossed your mind that this may be something that's important to take care of. And the way to qualify for long-term care protection is through your good health. So do it while you have good health, because there may come a time where you may not qualify for it. There's different ways to cover long-term care. We talked about the traditional as well as the newer alternative types of policies. But please put a plan in place and talk to your parents, talk to your children about what your plans are for the future in case you do need this, in case you're that 2 out of 3 who needs it, as opposed to that 1 out of 3 who will likely not need it. And the pool of people that will need long-term care is a huge number across the nation. I'm Sarah Finkelstein. Thank you for joining me, and please join me tomorrow. And don't hesitate to reach out with any questions you may have.